On a scale of 1 to lemon angel food cake, it's about a 3.
You can't compare it to
Wow.
that. That's kind of.
Honest.
It's a cream cake. I like it. He's got two profiles. Yeah, I love that.
What did you bring?
I brought my child. You're welcome.
I couldn't even get her.
She was nice.
Oh.
She was just like, I know I have her. I've been having her in here, but so nobody be afraid to say, hey, let me have her. She's crushed. We're a little Christmas stress. Has she run one yet?
Close?
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like a pretty Christmas dress.
Oh, no.
Did somebody make this?
I don't know.
Probably from where you're going. Oh, consignment. So, yeah, probably so. Probably some unsentimental soul like me gave it to consignment.
It was their grandmother's final
Yeah.
thing that she made. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to give it back to a consignment, too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why.
I don't sell in consignment, but I will buy it all day long. Oh,
There you go. Everything's working now?
it's like,
Did you see that thing on Facebook yesterday about that red crystal that's okay? Did you see that? Taking
Actually, you're already up there. Yeah. We got a. Yeah.
hey, Chuck's back.
Jeopardy. Yeah. Chuck's-
Where's Brandon? He needs to update us on Chuck.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't notice that he's sitting right there.
Yeah.
Hey, is he back? Unfortunately, I can't tell you anything about Larry Morgan. Sorry, guys.
So how are the reads doing? No,
I guess the same. I haven't seen anything else.
just continue prayers for them. Yeah, you can continue to pray for Mark. Yeah, I can't really get into some stuff, but I will say that, some things going on there for sure. Okay, Chris and Jennifer, any update on them?
Okay, you can probably take them off for now.
Okay.
They're good.
Okay.
You find out baby brownie is on Friday, so.
Oh, that's exciting.
Alyssa, still pregnant? Oh, yeah, are you still pregnant? That's what I
I mean, that's a big
Oh, Brandon's here. Can we get our update on Chuck?
Chuck, who?
Chuck O'Rourke?
He's right there.
Oh.
Yay!
Yes.
You missed it last week.
You're like,
They asked about you, and Brandon was like, filling everybody in, and Ryan was like, well, his wife is here, she can come
Everybody
out.
else, the wife was right beside the sister, so I was like.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay. So let's just kind of continue prayers that, stable for the most part. Good. Brandy and Charlie.
Mm-hmm. He's doing well. Still on oxygen.
Good.
But they came home, man.
They did. But her husband just got laid off on Friday, so they can't. And she is supposed to go back to work in January, but she got a call the other day that her GI lab might be closing down in like February, so she's trying to find another job.
Evan, did you put on Roy Armstrong? Is that you?
Yeah, I think
Oh
I'm
my
marking
gosh.
him off. He's
Yeah.
back at work. I think he's doing good, but
Right. All things considered.
that's.
You can take off Jane and Judy. You can probably take off Chuck. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put
Unless you want to
it
stay
back.
up there. You can stay up there. That's up to you.
He's fine.
Right. Okay. All right. How's Larry doing, Brandon?
He is coming today. Everything went well. It's got like a bump, kind of like on his neck. They're gonna check it out Wednesday, but other than that, he looks good.
Okay, great, awesome. I haven't heard. Did anyone hear Chuck Spitzley actually went home? Because he was in the ER.
He went home, so.
Okay, yeah, I did not see that post this morning. Okay. Very good. Okay, wonderful, yeah, because he got out and then they had to take him back in again. Now he's out, so that's good. Sarah, I'm assuming was that yours? Sarah? No, okay, that's a different.
But
Sarah-
Oh, we're thinking about Sarah. Yes.
Sarah said last night that her friend said.
Today. Oh, okay. Well, let's keep that.
Yeah.
Yes,
A little
absolutely.
Christmas baby.
Please said that.
Christmas baby. It's technically not Christmas. So.
That too.
It's been Christmas since November.
The birthday
So-
Right.
Yeah,
Christmas
when we just
ish.
really-
Christmas season, basically.
Season.
Otherwise, it's just like.
David said that. My birthday's on Christmas, so I'll get presents.
Do we have any other prayers that we need to add to the board or any praises?
To people, add, my grandmother is Louise Henderson. She's had some more medical complications. I don't remember what it was, but there was like some kind of spot, I believe it's like on her, I think lungs. Like there was one, then now there's another one.
Okay.
Something to do with also pneumonia as well. She said that in the past.
Are they going to biopsy?
The lungs.
I'll get more
So, like,
information.
P pneumonia. Put the P first, it's important.
Yeah.
Then, put grandmother of Mary and Wolf. Her grandmother is going through complications, and she's also falling, so she's pretty hurt right now.
Do you have any other prayer requests?
I have one. It's an acquaintance, not like a good friend, but her name's Lauren. She was pregnant around the same gestation I am when she lost her baby. It's like one of Ayla's friends in her class.
That's rough. Anything else?
Put a list of friend that freaks me out.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I kind of saw that too.
Lauren on there.
Yeah.
I know, but
Yeah, I kind of saw that too. I was like,
sorry, dude.
Just making people work.
But acquaintance.
Kind of a point.
Yeah.
Kind of acquaintance.
Come on,
Can we smell that?
yeah, you did it right.
Promote you from acquaintance to friend.
Well,
Yeah.
David has spoken.
I was at her house.
Just
I went
house.
to her house for a birthday party.
Actually, David, I'm just thinking,
What you want to
would
put
you
in?
mind
Yeah.
leading the prayer for us? All
Let's have a prayer. Heavenly Father, we're thankful that we have an opportunity every week to gather together to open your word, to learn about you, to learn about what our purpose is here in this world, to strengthen each other and to better prepare and equip to go out and make disciples every day as we interact with those around us. At this time, there's quite a few on the prayer list that we'd like to mention specifically that are struggling, that are recovering, or that have recently lost loved ones. We ask that you would be with those on this list, that you would strengthen them and encourage them, and also that you would help us to look for opportunities that we could be your hands and feet in this world, that we could lift these up, whether it be a kind word or bringing them a meal, that we would in some way help lessen their burden. We thank you most of all for sending your son to die on the cross. In his name, pray.
Amen. Very good. So this will be my last part of Song of Solomon. And we're going to pick it back up where we were discussing last time. We kind of got into authorship, composition, and really what we spent most of the time looking at last time was the history of interpretation of the book, literal or allegorical, which one makes more sense? Well, we've taken a lot of look at, some of the allegorical ones, and as I presented last time, there are some very ridiculous ones out there, and, it's kind of very subjective and very arbitrary, like this represents this and this represents that. And a lot of times it's not something where you can like point to within the book and be like, this is how we justify this, being a metaphor representation. And there are metaphors, there are similes in this book, but they're usually very evident within the context, and you can justify them within the context. So, we talked about last time, like Jerome, one of the early Latin writers, that he basically said, it's written in fleshly terms. It sounds like a book that's just about the intimacy between this husband and this, well, I don't want to get ahead because we still haven't covered that yet, but between this man and this woman, that's what it really seems the focus of the book is. But really, it has deep, 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 deep spiritual, meaning underneath it. And as we've seen, that kind of really doesn't hold too much water. So it's really like, the interpretation of Song of Solomon has been openly expressed to the question of how can you look at it spiritually, as opposed to looking at it as it sits and taking it at face value based on its own words and its own context. Let's see, this was working a second ago, maybe. Okay. So the literal interpretation or the natural reading, read-in. Gotta get it right, it's far more recent. It's a far more recent phenomenon. It has little support in history. So taking this at face value is just something that in the past 100 or more years, people have been like, hey, maybe we should actually just let the book define what kind of genre and what kind of point it has for itself. However, it has always been understood from the very beginning how Song of Solomon sounds at face value. And, and interpreters throughout history have worked hard to spiritualize the book, kind of like we were talking about last time. Rabbi Akiva mentioned him last time, pointed out, whoever Song of Songs with a tremulous voice in the banquet hall so treats it as a sort of ditty, has no share in the world to come. In other words, he's talking about the scenario in which there apparently were Jews from his time who they would sing it and they would have a nice laugh about it, essentially, because of how, I guess, just, very sexual and very just amorous, I guess, it sounds. So, and other words that you can throw in there. But even in his time, he felt the need to combat a literal understanding of Song of Solomon, being like, guys, this is not what it sounds like, okay? So they basically understood at face value, it sounds like the way it sounds, essentially. Literal interpretation is the most objective way to read Song of Solomon because it doesn't require any arbitrary assignments of meaning, like saying this blank actually means this blank, and it's just like, Old and New Testament. It's just like there were so many illustrations we looked at last time that were just kind of you just literally just decided that it means that. And I mentioned last time also Origen, who is the guy who produced the main allegorical interpretation of Song of Solomon that we're familiar with today, which is Song of Solomon really is about the love between Christ and his church. That comes from Origen back in the 3rd century. And he himself, as we talked about last time, he openly admitted that he assigned spiritual meaning to the book because it doesn't have, to him, that much value if you take it at face value. Which again, that's arbitrary. That's not actually trying to dig in and find what it actually means. So it does contain, as I mentioned before, similes, metaphors, and wordplay. Those are all very true, but those are usually obvious and justifiable within the context of the books. They're not like some random reach, you know. Man, what is this thing?
Still Christian.
Christian, can you advance, please? Okay, very good. So, you know, it's just, and it gets like arbitrary to the point where like you start taking some of the terms from the book. Should we apply allegorical meaning to words like Solomon? Solomon actually means not Solomon. It means something else. Maidens mean actually not maidens. It means something else. Oils represent this, queens, concubines, chariots. Here's Jerusalem. These all represent different things than what the book is actually talking about. And it's just like that to allegorize anything and everything in this book is entirely arbitrary and oftentimes just not justified within the context of the book. Okay, let's take a look at some of the characters or some of the main players in the book, so to speak. The main woman is the voice. She's most often called by her male lover, so to speak, my darling. That's the most common phrase that he calls her by throughout the book. We see in, if someone wants to read it, Song of Solomon, if you want to read 6 verse 13, we see a more, I guess, a detail about her. Someone would like to go ahead and read that. Song of Solomon 6 verse 13.
Return, return, O Shulamite. Return, return, we may look upon you. Why should you look upon the Shulamite as upon a dance before 2 armies?
Okay, so we hear about her nationality. We also get some other background information on her, I think, which we will talk about later as well throughout the book. The man is most oftenly called beloved. So that's in Song of Solomon 1 verse 13. This is where she first calls him beloved. So that's the most common name that he goes by. So darling and beloved, you know, darling for the woman, beloved for the man, those are the most common ones. Then we kind of have this chorus of woman, but sometimes the chorus doesn't seem to be just women. It kind of gets a little confusing to me. But if you take a look at Song of Solomon, if someone could read just verses 4 and 5 of chapter 1.
Draw me away. I will run after you. The kings have brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in you. We will remember you, love more than wine. Rightly do they love you. I am dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon.
Yeah, and it seems like throughout the book, it seems like both the man and the woman address the daughters of Jerusalem in general, and we'll get more into that later on. But kind of at the end of verse 4, the last half of verse 4, you'll kind of see that chorus come in. You'll probably see a note in your Bible where it says this is kind of the first appearance of the chorus of people. But usually it seems to be a chorus of women commenting on something that's going on. And again, this is a song, so and that's like if I'm to talk about like the overall structure, because I did outline the whole structure, and hopefully we'll get to that. But the structure of this book, I mean, it being a song, I can't say it's like fully chronological. It's not like you start in chapter 1 and there's this progression of these meetings that they have with each other all the way to the end. Some of it feels kind of like pieced here and there, and that's not so different than modern songs. Like, modern songs are not a linear front to back. They can be a reflection of something in the past, reflection of something in the future, reflection of something in the present. So it's not so different than songs that we're familiar with. So just say that the structure is not necessarily linear, and that's reading it front to back. It was really challenging outlining this book because it's kind of like hard to like discern certain parts from each other. Also, some background information on the woman, but her brothers are mentioned in verse 6. They sound like kind of mean guys. If someone want to read verse 6.
Do not gaze at me because I am dark, because the sun is the light. My mother's sons are angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard I have not kept.
Okay, very good. So this, we have the background on this woman in the book, the main female character, and she is apparently being mistreated by her brothers. She's a vineyard taker. The vineyard illustration, by the way, is used pretty frequently in Song of Solomon, garden, vineyard. And this is like an example in verse 6 where we do have what I believe is a clear metaphor, which is like, they made me caretaker of the vineyards, but I have not taken care of my own vineyard. That seems to be a reference to her own health, her own body, et cetera, et cetera. And that's justifiable within the context of Song of Solomon. And later on, you'll see the use of vineyard. It seems to be a clear reference to, herself as opposed to a literal vineyard. So it does seem to be a clear play on words. As mentioned before, queens and concubines are mentioned briefly in chapter 6, verses 8 through 10, where they basically give praise to this woman. And there are some watchmen that are mentioned in chapter 5, verse 7, and some others. So those are the main kind of characters that we see mentioned in this song. If you read front to back, the question does come up, and you'll see some commentators, comment on this, be like, doesn't seem like they're married to me, but as you read this book, it can seem like a steamy extramarital affair, but there is plenty of strong evidence in Song of Solomon that the man and woman are married. She is identified as his bride multiple times. Turn over with me to Song of Solomon, chapter 4. And someone just read verses, we'll just read 8 through 12. Someone want to go ahead and read that.
Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Descend from the crest of Ammon, from the top of Senir, the summer from the lion's den, and the mountain haunts of leopards. You have stolen my heart, my sister, my bride. You have stolen my heart with one glance of your dress, with one jewel of your necklace. How delightful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume more than any spice. Your lips drop sweetness as the honeycomb, my bride. My milk and honey are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. You are a garden locked up, my sister, my bride. You are a spring enclosed, a sealed fountain.
Okay, if you don't mind reading chapter 5, verse 1 also.
I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk. Eat, friends, and drink your fill of love.
So anyway, we can see very clearly here that the word bride is used pretty frequently in that section.
Yeah, let's back up. My sister, my sister, my sister.
Does it mean like
Yeah.
sister in Christ?
My sister.
Right.
This is before Christ. So we need to evaluate this sister.
Okay, my sister. Yeah, I think.
In religion.
Listen,
Because they're of the same, are they of the same nationality? Like,
Has he run out of prospects?
I don't think so. He's like hundreds of
He's got
concubines.
countless virgins, so it's run.
Yeah. No, it's
Right.
listen, it's an affectionate term, and there's good reason for that too, because later on, like in chapter 8, about verses 1 through 3, the bride talks to her, the man she loves in this book, and I could say husband because we've demonstrated that it's bride. So the woman talks to her husband, and she says, "I wish that basically you were my younger brother, so I could take care of you." I know it's weird. Listen, I'm just telling you, like for them Israelites, that was some type of lovely, affectionate type of sweet nothing to say, but it's just like for us that's just weird,
In all fairness, like endearing terms, there's going to be some that we use today that 150 years from now, they're like, wow, that was
Exactly.
Not
No.
sister or brother.
People do
That's
use
for
like
sure.
sister
But-
and brother for non-blood related.
And I didn't think about this, but if you take a look at chapter 8, verses 1 through 3, it clearly shows that they were not brother and sister. Literally. She says, "Oh, I wish you were my brother." Like, so
They wish, but they weren't.
yeah, exactly, right. So
Yeah, that's like a nurse on my
I did not think I was going to have to clarify that point, to be honest, but it does make sense. Like, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, but as you can see, the word bride is used just so many times in the book. Not to mention as well, if you take a look back at chapter 3, verse 11, it says, "Oh, go forth, daughters of Zion, and gaze at King Solomon with the crown, with which his mother has crowned him on the day of his wedding, on the day of gladness of his heart." So it really does. I would say there's pretty strong evidence that this is not only in wedding context, but arguably this might be a wedding song. So there, anyone who says, oh, like look at the passion, look at the, all this stuff. It's just like,
Possibly be married.
yeah, exactly, right. And we're talking about that later. Like, this is like, modern, like, fiction that women like to read. That's all, steamy and whatnot. And what's that? Exactly.
50 Shades of Solomon.
I mean,
say they're married all day long, but
yeah.
clearly.
Well, I mean, and that's a fair point. There are, clearly there are concubines, as mentioned in the book. But we're going to get to, yeah. Well, are you talking about which verse are you referencing?
6:8.
6:8, yeah.
The 60 queens, 80 concubines.
Yeah, this is talking about, and again, there's a chorus of women or daughters of Zion who are chiming in throughout this book, and I think that's what's a reference to. That basically this chorus of women are singing the praises of this woman. The concubines and the queens are saying, "You're so wonderful and awesome." Again, to me, it feels like obligatory complimenting, but it's just like, that's in there. So I don't think we have a suggestion of necessarily Solomon just doing it with whoever per se, but clearly the man was not exactly monogamous. So, I'm not going to do too much to defend him. I was just reading this actually just like earlier this morning. I was looking at Deuteronomy 17:17, where in the local law, it said about the kings, if you set up a king, they are not to multiply them wives. Yeah, Solomon didn't do that. And Solomon was an expert in the old law, but he just didn't do it. He just didn't. Why? Did he know that he was not supposed to have 700 wives and 300 concubines? Of course he did. But
Verse 4 too in Deuteronomy, he's not supposed to have many horses or chariots either, and he did that as well.
exactly. You can look at that chapter right there and map out like he did the wrong thing, basically. So yeah, he had the path, he had the do not do this, and he was like, that sounds like a great idea to do, and that's what he did. So
I kind of find that, this is my thought, if you look at King Josiah, that's when they found the book of the law.
Yeah.
A long time. I think he may have been wise, but he did not reflect that much on law, which is why he oversaw all those rules possible.
I don't know. I feel like
Because even David did not follow the law as well.
David did overlook when it
Several
came to
things.
the carrying the ark into Jerusalem
And there was
and some other.
There's a huge time period between Deuteronomy, you have the judges and everything, and then the established thing.
But if you read the Proverbs, I mean, so much reflection on the law of God and talking about the law of God. David, I love your law. Psalms 119. I mean, so I feel like Solomon knew. It wasn't enough. He ended up doing his own thing. So okay, and that's what we're getting to now. There are two interpretations of who the dude is in this book. Is it Solomon or is it Shepherd Boy? And now listen, I will go ahead and say personally, I feel like the Shepherd Boy interpretation is motivated by the great irony of this book, if it is Solomon, which I think the evidence is strongest to that point, as I will show you in just a moment. Because it's all about this intimate, special feelings and attachments that they have to each other. And yet there's Solomon with all these women, and I think a lot of people, because they want to emphasize the virtues of monogamy as God designed it to be, they want to go more with the shepherd boy thing. But does the evidence support that? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at. So where does the evidence point, essentially? Take a look at, I'm not going to go through all this because I want to get to some of the significance of this book theologically, but Song of Solomon, if you go back, I'm just going to run through these essentially, but the mention of maidens in Song of Solomon 1 verse 3, these are maidens that are associated with being, let's see, actually we were just talking about that verse, Song of Solomon 6:8, maidens that are associated as being those who serve Solomon, or as mentioned in verse 8. So you have a context to that. Song of Solomon 1 verse 4. This is where the woman is talking, And she says, the king has brought me into his chambers. I don't, and here's the thing, it's like, I actually read some commentaries on this, and like, so I was like, what do they have to say to this verse if you believe it's shepherd boy that's being talked about here? Like, and they said, oh, king is used as a poetic,
Like
kind
he's
of,
my king.
yeah, he's my king, like I'm the princess. Yeah, and it's like, even though it's like, there are certain contexts where I feel that's justified, in the context of this book, not at all. Like, I feel like that's such a stretch, that doesn't feel very justified to me. You take a look at verse 9 as well. This is where the husband is talking to me, my darling. You were like my mare among the chariots of Pharaoh. Compares her to a horse. Can't say I would advise that in any capacity. But so the chariots of Pharaoh, that's kind of a reference to what Solomon had. 1 Kings 10:28-29. He imported his horses from Egypt. Take a look at 1 verse 17. It says, the beams of our houses and cedars are rafter. The beams of our house are cedars, our rafters are cypress. This is where the woman is talking again. She's talking about, look at all the houses we own. Look at, they're made of cedars and cypress. And if you look at the details, King Solomon actually imported cedars from Lebanon, from King Hiram. So, would a shepherd boy have houses made of cedar? No. So it sounds like she's talking about her and her beloved being pretty rich, especially if you look at verse 16 as well, too. So again, like, if we're talking shepherd boy, does that really fit? Not really. All right, okay. More details. Song of Solomon 2, verse 4. He has brought me in to his banquet hall, and his banner over me is love. Yeah, I can see perhaps a poetic there, but it seems to be like a literal, talking about this is what we possess. We have a banquet hall. Song of Solomon 6, verse 12. This is where the husband or Solomon, I would suggest, is talking. Before I was aware, my soul set me over the chariots of my noble people. Is the shepherd boy going to have his noble people? Like, I don't like, that sounds like a king talking. That does not sound like a shepherd boy to me at all. Then let's see. The king is talking again. Chapter 7, verse 5. Your head crowns you like caramel, and the flowing locks of your hair are like purple threads. The king is captivated by your tresses. Okay, so king, again, like we can argue that it's some type of poetic self-description, but I think it makes more sense in the context of the whole book that we have, that we are talking about King Solomon. Now, here's where some of the suggestions or the evidences that are used to support the shepherd boy illustration is we do have the male talking about pasturing flock. In Song of Solomon 1 verse 7, the bride mentions, tell me, oh, you whom my soul loves, where do you pasture your flock, and where do you make it lie down at noon, etc., etc. So, and then 2:16, 6:2, and 6:3. I'm not going to go through all those right now, but it has the same reference. Where do you pasture your flock, etc., etc. I will say that kind of gives me like maybe just a little bit of pause, because I do think Solomon definitely owned plenty of flocks. So I'll go ahead and point that out. He definitely owned. I looked this up. When they were inaugurating the temple, they sacrificed 120,000 sheep. So probably had some sheep just going. I know, right? Like,
What a feast.
yeah.
I kind of wonder, do you think maybe the shepherd boy is like a nickname for himself? Like he's saying he's the shepherd boy, kind of like he's flocking, the king flocking.
Yeah, I mean, his father was a shepherd,
That was another thing I was thinking too.
Yeah, and so I think to me, it's just like, I will agree that it doesn't make sense per se for the king to like be just like shepherding constantly. I'm not saying it necessarily portrays that, but
Some higher people will claim like they're doing it, but it's their.
but it's some exactly.
Because it's their flock.
Yeah, and it seems based on this book that he is actually going out and about and like literal gardens and vineyards, while they're using wordplay about gardens and vineyards for other things. Like, it's just like
But tending to a garden.
He was
Right.
shepherding his flock of concubines.
Oh no.
Now it all comes together.
Yeah, so anyway, summarize, the evidence strongly favors the husband, the book being King Solomon as a shepherd. It just, when you put it all together, I just don't think it it works for the shepherd boy. Why is this not advancing? So, Christian, can you advance, please?
Yeah.
There it goes. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time, but basically, like, I tried to outline this whole thing, which was absolutely nuts to do. But basically, you know, like the bride chorus, you know, bridegroom are the main ones, but you know, essentially, she expresses love for him, wants to go into his chambers. The bride is praised by the chorus. She gives us her bio. The bride says, "Where are you at?" The bridegroom says, "Girl, you know, you're looking fine." Chorus says, "We'll make you some bling bling." The bride says, "I kind of had a little fun with this," but the bride said, "You know,
Perfume for
my boo." Yeah, she had some perfume. She was at a table. She was trying to attract Solomon's attention. Bridegroom says, "You're beautiful." Bride says, "You're handsome and we're rich." Bride says about herself, "I'm exceptionally beautiful." The bridegroom says, "I concur." The bride says, "You're exceptional among men. I long for your embrace, your comfort." The bride or bridegroom. This is an interesting part. They start addressing the chorus of girls, I believe. Girls, you can't hurry love. That's one of the main themes actually that goes throughout Song of Solomon. Bride says, "My beloved is in great shape," essentially, and bridegroom says, "Come along, spring is sprung." Like bridegroom, let me see your form. Chorus, like I don't understand 2:15, by the way. I think that may be a metaphor or illustration that it's like about foxes ruining vineyards. Yeah, it really is. Like, yeah. So bride basically says, "We belong together or belong to each other." Bride says, "Where'd you go? I found you. Let's go hang out where my mom gave birth to me." Bride or bridegroom says, you know, they say to the woman again, "You can't hurry love." The chorus talks about Solomon's wedding day in detail. We looked at that. You know, the bridegroom, he compliments her physical appearance, says, "I want you to travel with me. You make my heart beat." 4 verse 9, 4 10 through 11. "Your love is incredible." 4 12 through 15. "You're like a luscious garden." That's basically what it says. Yeah, and yeah,
Luscious.
that's what he described it. And then the bridegroom says, "I love yeah. Well, okay, yeah. I tried to leave that one out because that's like the yes.
Oh no, this is not Old New Testament.
So the bride, like, there's a miscommunication that happens in chapter 5. There you go. And then the bride says, "Have you seen my beloved?" And the chorus is like, "What does he look like?" And then she says, "He's outstanding," and then goes into detail complimenting his physical appearance, including his abs and his you know, his iron legs and whatnot. Whatever. Chorus says, "Where's your beloved? He's in the garden. You know, we belong together." More physical compliments. "You're the special one. Queens and concubines. You look so fabulous." Bridegroom, back to the garden. Chorus, "We want to see her." Bridegroom's like, "Why do you want to see my wife?" And then bridegroom, more body metaphors, expressing desire, you know, to spend quality time together. The bride says, "Let's spend the night together." I wish we had grown up together. Weird. Bridegroom or bride, again, you can't hurry love. Chorus, "Who's this lady with this man?" And it talks about verse 7, very nice verse actually, the power of love. Chorus talks about protecting our young sister. The bride says, "I'm mature and I'm free to give my vineyard to whom I see fit." I don't know. Anyway, bridegroom, "We're listening for you," and the bride says, "Hurry to me," and that is the book. So that's the book in a nutshell. Theological significance. There is one mention of Yahweh. You can turn over with me to Song of Solomon, and someone wants to read that. Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 6.
"Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is strong as death, jealousy is fiercely brave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord."
Right. So kind of the strength of love is compared to the strength of God, essentially. And I think this part of Song of Solomon to me is probably the most poetic and actually probably the most, powerful, I think. It also talks about the value of love. Go ahead and someone go ahead and read verse 7 as well, or David, you go ahead and read verse 7 as well.
Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would be utterly despised.
Right, and it's the idea that there is no amount of wealth that can purchase the value of what love is. Again, I feel like this is a stronger point in the book for me in terms of what I can appreciate, because this, speaks very true. I think one of the values of this book to me is God designed sex for more than just reproduction. If you take kind of a Catholic view on it, Genesis 1:28 is really the focus of what sex is about, which is reproduce, make little mini Catholics. That's the idea. That's the idea. We're gonna get our numbers up. It's like, how do we get church attendance up? Have more children, okay? Gosh, stop slacking off, y'all know. That's how we're gonna get our numbers up, okay? Everything's contribution.
Does get the numbers up.
Does get the numbers up. But I think Song of Solomon really shows that there is an end or a value within itself in regards to sexual intimacy that is to be appreciated within the act itself. Song of Solomon 5:1. This is, again, for us, somewhat humorous, language, but nevertheless, he says, "I've come to my garden, my sister, my bride. I've gathered my myrrh along with the balsam. I have eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk. And eat, friends, drink and imbibe deeply, O lovers." This is talking about enjoying the sexual intimacy itself. And 7:10-11 also gives another example of that as well. I don't know if we have to go through it. I was just listing some ones, but she talks about my desires for you. Let's go spend the night out in the country. Again, this is celebrating the intimacy of sex within, especially within the context of marriage. I think this is another super important point, I think, from Song of Solomon, is that deep love in the context of marriage can be exhilarating. People often portray, love in the context of marriage as it kind of gets used to it, get dull and boring and all this stuff. But I think this is showing that love in the context of marriage can still be exhilarating. Let's see, Song of Solomon 1:2 talks about, says, "For your love is better than wine," and then I think 4:9-10 also has the very similar stuff. I don't know what your translation read, but I found verse 9 very fascinating, or just very wow, this is it feels there's nothing that's been lost in time when it comes to male-female intimacy and love between each other. It says, "You have made my heart beat faster, my sister, my bride. You have made my heart beat faster with a single glance of your eyes, with a single strand of your necklace. How beautiful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much better is your love than wine and the fragrance of your oils." Again, this is talking about exhilarating love, within the context of marriage. So I think that's very, very important, very valuable. Again, we have more examples from Song of Solomon that sex within marriage can be wonderful and fulfilling. Song of Solomon 2:3 and Proverbs 5:15-20. This is something else from Solomon, and he talks about how he's and all of that right now. Another thing that I found about this that really stood out to me, someone will read Song of Solomon 5:16. I'm going to try to end this pretty quick here, but we're just about done.
What verse did you say?
Song of Solomon 5:16.
His mouth is most sweet, and he is altogether desirable. This is my beloved, this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem.
Yeah, and I found this interesting, an early ancient reference to the correlation between strong friendship and strong, intimacy within the context of a marriage. So I think that's valuable within itself. It shows that strong friendship makes for a marriage, and so that really stood out to me. I thought that was an interesting verse. Again, a couple last things. Sex in marriage is not dirty or wrong, it's to be celebrated. Again, it's not, I think it's true, that, think about sex in general, it is a very intimate, private kind of thing. It really is. It's not something that you do in an arena or something like that, hopefully.
Oh.
But it's so, but the point is, it's not like we're just going to like every conversation has to include a discussion about sex or something like that. But the point is, nevertheless, this book shows us that it's not something to be considered dirty within the context of marriage either. Don't talk about the fact that married people have sex. It's just that's, people end up taking that view of Christianity or the faith. And really, this is a book that celebrates sexual intimacy. it celebrates sexual intimacy. So let's not like act like it's dirty to do that. But yeah, that doesn't mean you have to be classless in your conversation all the time. You know what me and my wife did last night? It's like, no, like that's not, yeah.
Sure,
no.
we can guess.
Probably not.
Right, so
We
would slap
Probably not that.
Put the kids to bed early and went to sleep. Yeah.
Yes, just go to bed.
Yeah. It's like, but anyway, the other aspect I think, and kind of the last thing is don't rush into love. That's like a constant thing throughout. And I think this is good because you think in the context of this book being received and even today, just like, wow, love and sexual intimacy is so great. Okay, I want to do it now. And it's just like, now wait a second, hold on. Don't rush into it though. And I think that's good to have it in the book is that love needs to be right. It needs to be right before those kind of things can be present. Yeah.
Do you think it's part of like the don't rush into it? It's like letting people physically mature and not like maybe going too young. It's like it says something about like we have a sister, she doesn't
Yes.
breast and like all that. Like don't like
Yes.
wait till people are fully mature before you.
Yes, I think that certainly is a definitely part of it, no doubt, absolutely. I think it's a good message for today as well too. I think these are all valuable theological messages for us today. Is that the Bible teaches us, sex and love within marriage is a wonderful and exhilarating thing, and then also talks about don't rush into it also. And these are all good messages from the book. All right, that's all we have time for. I'm sorry for going over on that. We are done with my portion. I think Stan will get us next time. We'll go ahead and close out with prayer. Dear Father, Lord, thank you for saving us. Thank you for this time we've had to look into your word and to better understand a lesser known portion of your word. Just please help us to take the good from it, Lord, the wisdom that we've learned from it, and just appreciate what you designed, Lord, and help us to be a good example to others of your intent, your design with marriage. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.